So this is what it could look like at the end. Yours will obviously have its own different twist to it. So you'll see how I'm able to have all the footage, and I'm able to cut between all the different camera angles and tell the story about how this whole thing works. And then at the end of it, I added this. You don't have to add that, but like we talked about before, being able to create something and kind of show the process of how it's done is essential to your demo reel so that people can see the processes. So in here, I'm rendering out, here's the wireframe of Jerry, here's the transitions coming on, here's the wires of all these, here's Jerry's glow, that's what I'm going to go over today. Here's the glows of the screens, and then the transition at the end. Okay, so again, something that could add some value to your stuff. So into the nuke part of this. So I've gone over all of this stuff up here already. Remember when you load in your footage, a couple people did this, they're loading in the sequence into the cameras, load in the FBX. That's the camera's animation. The footage, the EXRs, are just videos, or just still images. There's no camera data there. Each camera has to have their own FBX. The Jerry cam is the sweep, the left one is the stage left mid, and the right one is stage right ground. Okay. Oops. Down here I have my scan line and masks. A couple things to note on the scan line. I changed my filter to Mitchell. I changed my anti-aliasing to high, and then I changed my multi-sample to at least 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. This will give you a little bit of motion blur on your stuff. If you go too high, obviously it's going to take longer to do, but the better quality it could be. Okay, 0, obviously you get no motion blur and it looks kind of silly. Having that additional 1 on there can help. All right, that's that. So from the scan line, here's the minus to get the Jerry off of there. Here's Jerry's stuff right here. All right, so what I wanted to do was have Jerry have some sort of interaction with the screens. So I wanted to create some sort of glowing effect that would happen by Jerry. So what I did is I took my footage. Okay, so this is just the footage, not Jerry, just the footage. And Jerry is missing from there. And then I added a glow to this, so everything's glowy. I graded it just to brighten it up a little bit. And then I merged that on top of the original Jerry footage. Okay, now what that does is it's going to give my video of Jerry just this kind of like glow on top of his skin. So here is original Jerry. Here is Jerry with a little bit of glow on it. And then when that gets pre-multiplied, you see that the screens go away and I just have Jerry with this kind of like glow on top of him. So again, all that is I've added this glow right there. I did use the screen channel as the width for this. I played with the size to get the sizing of that right. The bigger that is, obviously the more glow that's going to affect Jerry. I found 10 to be an appropriate number. The grade for this, I just took the multiply up to 4. If I wanted these to be brighter, obviously I could crank them up even more. And then just that pre-multiply just takes the alpha channel from Jerry, and then it just gets rid of all that stuff. I don't think I'd do anything here. Nope, that's all default. This just adds a little glow to Jerry's skin. So if he's in front of a screen or next to a screen, he'll have some of that glow on him. And if I want more of that, I can go back to the glow and watch how I take the size up, and you'll see how more of this glow kind of goes onto Jerry's skin. Okay, it's kind of a cheap way to do it, but it works. Okay, so now instead of my Jerry just being this boring one, now he has this this glow on top of him, and then that glow is what is going to get merged into the rest of the footage. Right there. All right, so now I take Jerry with this glow, and then I pre-multiply it just to apply all the stuff, and then I do a little light wrap around it. Okay, so this is basically like we've done before with the light wrap, is I just want to have a little bit more light kind of coming around these things. It's kind of hard to see at this frame. Let me go back a little bit. going to try to get it where Jerry's kind of off screen a little bit. Oops, that was a horrible frame to go to. Let me go back to 209. All right. We'll just go here. So here's my light wrap. And this is what the wrap is doing. So it's just giving us a little bit of a halo kind of coming around the surface. Again, I could play with those settings to get more of that wrapping happening on it by playing with that intensity, by playing with the blurring of the foreground and background elements. But again, you look at it when it's all done and then you try to figure out what's going to look nice. This was obviously too much. I talked about before being able to take the light wrap only, take the original footage and merging those together. Here I left it as one node. You can do it either way. You can see here, this looks like it's too much kind of blur on top of Jerry, which is why I went with obviously smaller numbers. I think it was 1 and 1. And this was like 0.5, I think. See, there's a little bit of blue kind of around the edges there, and that's what I was going after. Then I added a glow to the screens. Someone asked us earlier, and I think it was Tara. I said to add the glows way up here. Don't add the glows way up there. They'll probably get cut off, okay? What I did was that same alpha channel that we had set up for the screens so that we would have a separate, where am I at? This. There it is. So when we render this out, we have this here. I wanted to have an alpha channel that was just the screens, just like that. So I added this shuffle in here, and I said I'm going to shuffle the alpha channel into a screens, just like we did the Jerry one. And then when I come down here to my glow, I can pick screen from that list. And now only the screens are what are going to blur and glow. Okay, so it gives you a little bit more control of those after the fact. If I needed to adjust even some of my colorations on this, I could add a grade. Find my screens in here somewhere, right there. And I could adjust the screen's color on here too if I needed to do that. Okay, I didn't need to do that, but I could. And then I just did a vignette. I've shown those before. Oops, not a vignette, a background, that's what this is. I added a constant, the constant gets merged, and then I did a crop and then a write out, okay? So the only new part here is adding this glow on top of Jerry. We did the light wrap before, but just seeing the light wrap on how I added it to this one. And then I added this background, very similar to what we did on that gaming system, how we added a different background on there. All the crop node does is it just gets rid of the extra information that's kind of sitting around. If you look here, you'll see that there's some pixels kind of hanging out from our glows, blurs, whatever. When we add a crop to it, it just locks it off, gets rid of that extra data. We don't need to see it. And then for my right, I wrote out each one of my cameras. So I went here and I said, this is render cam right. I made sure that my switch, which is right here, was on render cam right. And I wrote that out. Then I switched it to left, rendered the left out. Switched it to the sweep, rendered the sweep out. And then when I went into After Effects, I had 3 sequences. Here, not that. I'm mixing classes. Here we go. So here's the left side. Here's the sweep, or the right. And then this should be the sweep. There it is. Okay. So I took all 3 of these. After I imported them, I went to a new composition. I said single. I said don't sequence the layers. And then inside here, all of these are already like synced up. They're already at the exact time frame. So all I need to do is switch between which one I want to see. You could add a transition, but all I did was cut between them all. So let's say that I start off with, I don't know, what does left do like that, right? Cool. All right. All right, so left is doing that. So let's say that I want left to stop right here. I'm going to control, forgot it now. Split layer, Control Shift E, that was going to hit. All right, so that splits that layer. I'm just going to turn this layer off, and then I want to switch to, let's say, the right side. So I go to the right side, Control Shift D again. Oops, that's why I can't do that, because that's on my other thing. Split layer, I'll delete this little chunk, and now it's going to jump from this side to that side. And you'll see how it's like flowing in the same direction. I could add a little bit of offset here if I wanted to pull this a little bit over and then pull this back down. Then as he's swiping, it turns on, and as he gets here, it's turning on again. So there's a little bit of an offset kind of between them. I could kind of overlap these two and add a transition if I wanted. Effect, transition, let's do a linear wipe. We'll set a keyframe here. I'll go up to the end of this, set it to 100, and then feather a little bit. Oops. And I did that backwards, so let me grab the keyframes, right click, and say reverse. There we go. I animated it going off, not on. There we go. And then I would just do the same process for the next one. I get to, let's say, this point, and I want to show him clicking on the thing, so I'm going to switch to the sweep camera. So I split the layer, hide the part that I don't want, go to my sweep cam, split that layer. I can probably delete the part that I don't want here. You could also use Premiere if you're an editor and you're more comfortable with Premiere, then you may want to use that instead. And then I just went through and did the same thing over and over and over again. This is what my rendering looks like. So here is this camera, it sweeps across, and then it switches to this camera, and then it switches to this camera, and then it switches to that camera, and then it switches to this camera, and then fades off. So I just added opacity keyframes right there. Okay, and then for all the other stuff, very similar. If I go into my wire boards, here's the wire, here's these, here's that. Let me turn this off. Okay, now on these ones, you'll see all the layers are stacked here. I actually added transitions from each one so that it would actually transition from one to the next to the next. So each one of these is basically just turning on the layer above it, and then the next layer, and then the next layer. Okay. I also went into my project area, and once I had my, I think it was render cam, yes, render cam. And that's it there. No, render cam. Render cam left. That's Final Jerry, and then my other one was wire boards. So I'm going to take my Jerry and my other one, put this into a new composition, single comp, okay. And then in this one, I went to my comp settings, made this longer, like 600 frames. And then I actually sped up my Jerry, or slowed him down. He was going too fast. So I went to my stretch, and I put in, I think 120 was a happy amount. Let's move that down to here. And so then I just put these two compositions together. There's other ways to do it. We don't need to get into all the different ways you could add that. 700 is enough. Nope, a little more. Still more. Okay. There we go. Okay, but that's how you're going to finish off this assignment. Again, you don't need to do this part. That's just to make it break down how you did all the things, all the different steps. So you, at the very minimum, you'll have something like this: transitions, animates, doing something, and then cut between all the cameras and fade out. Then send that over to Media Encoder, make your movie, get your node graph snapshot. Obviously, for this one, you're going to have to be like crazy far out. And that's it. Okay? And it's obviously a lot. If you break it into chunks, it's not terrible. If you just look at the different pieces and say, okay, this is what the screens should look like. Did I hit the button? I did. It's just thinking. This is what the screen should look like. I have the screens showing. Yes, right there. If I look at my masks, I can see that Jerry mask is sitting right here. So that gets minused and then shuffled. So we have the screen mask and blah, blah, blah. And then we go to our glow because we want to glow on Jerry. We go to the light wrap, and then we go to our background and writing it out. Okay? It's a lot of nodes, but it's just break them into those simple chunks, those little pieces. It makes it a lot easier. And as you're troubleshooting your stuff, don't try to view it down here. That's way too much stuff, especially if you're dealing with your footage. Look at just the footage. So if I go here to this animation, I say, okay, is the animation playing? It is. And then I go to the next level. Okay, I'm shuffling. What did I just shuffle? The alpha channel in there, so now it has an alpha. And then I'm copying this image in here. Yep, there's that image. And that works. When I go down to this one and I look at where this is coming in, somewhere over here it should be going off. There it is. And it goes off. Okay, if something was wrong, I would very easily be able to troubleshoot exactly where it's not working, where the issue is, and just backtrack it until it is happy. Now I am noticing that this says 960 by 540. This piece of footage is brought in at 960 by 540, but this piece of footage is also 960. Where's this other number coming from? 320? That? No. Let's close all these. That's 960, yes. This is 960. That's 960. No, my screen is bigger than that. If I view just this, that says 320. Root format. Let me reload this. Yep. I don't know why it was 960. It was coming in at 320. This doesn't do anything except for confuse nuke. It does stuff, but just if you get something like that that's a different size, let me verify that my trans on is doing the same thing. Yeah, there it is. So this is 960. This other one is 320. So this trans should have a reformat so that it's the same size as the other one. If you don't notice a difference, you don't need to worry about it. But typically you're going to notice something happened. Come on. There it is. Without my reformat, you can see how big they are. With the reformat, you can see how small they are, right? So I'm noticing something different there because one is this big, the other one is that big. I need to reformat in there to make sure that it works. I could also jump into After Effects and just re-render out this piece of footage. Or I could go into Nuke and I could write this out right here. Let's go this. And go up a folder, make a new one, new trans. And set that to input. That's not the input. There we go. So now what this is doing is just rewriting it out at the smaller size. That way I don't have to add a reformat for each one. The smaller our footprint is inside Nuke, the faster things are going to go. So now this is going to fit the exact size of that one. And so now I'll have a much nicer looking transition, as long as I didn't screw anything else up. This, I had to view the right thing. There we go. Yep, nice. All right, and I have to do the same thing down here to the other one if that's the case. So just stuff to be aware of. Cool. All right, any questions on how to finish that up yet? No?